Hey guys, how's it going? It's Rob Sutton with Bike 198. So you're looking to upgrade the components on the current bike you have, whether you have an older bike that just needs to be refreshed or you got into the market with a budget bike that you could use to upgrade some of the components. I'm gonna go through my guide on what you should upgrade first, where you can get the most bang for your buck and not waste money on things that aren't going to really translate to the trail. So let's get at it. So guys, on a little quick side note here, if you do not have a dropper post, that is the #1 thing you should buy right away. I'm going to do a full video on that here in the near future, so be sure to subscribe. Do not miss that. So the first thing we're going to upgrade, which I actually group into one category, is all of your contact points. That'd be your saddle, grips, and pedals. So first off, the saddle. It could be one of the most important components on your bike when it comes to comfort. If you don't have the right saddle, you're going to get tired quicker and be uncomfortable for most of the ride. 99.9% of the saddles that have ever come on bikes that I did not build myself did not fit me well and created pain points while I was out riding my bike. So you can go to local bike shops, even Specialized has some of these pads that you can sit on, and you can actually figure out your width and what kind of saddle would fit you the best. That is the #1 thing I would change right away. Then we get to grips. Bikes typically come with really cheap grips. So when you do this really cheap upgrade, you can reduce hand fatigue and vibrations through the handlebar by upgrading your grips to something that's a lot more comfortable and fits your hand better. And then it's the pedals. Whether it be flat pedals or clipless pedals, that is your last contact point with the bike at the cranks. So I always like to get flat pedals that are a little bit better for my shoe size and a little bit better quality for better grip while I'm out riding. Then of course, if you're going to be running clipless pedals, it's almost a necessity to buy some right away, as most bikes do not come with them as standard. And then the second one, which is actually my favorite and I find gives the most bang for the buck when it comes to performance when you're out riding, and that's a good wheel set. If you ever buy a pre-built bike, one of the things they cheap out on the most are wheels. You get low engagement wheels that are machine built and often don't have the right width for the tire they're running. So upgrading the wheels does several different things. One, it gives you better engagement on the trail, so you get more power to the ground faster, and especially in technical situations where you need to clutch the pedals, you don't have that large gap between the point where you put down the pedal and it actually puts power to the trail. You also get a lot stiffer wheel build, which means that your bike is going to handle a lot better out on the trail. You're not going to be getting deflections and other things that can put you off course that a cheap wheel build will do. And then thirdly, it's also lighter. Less rolling resistance is like adding horsepower to your legs. The most weight that you have to push is that rolling resistance that it comes from your tires and your wheels. So when you can save weight there, it literally is like adding power to your body. So after you upgrade the wheels, what would I do next? And typically I go straight to brakes. I know a lot of people at this point in time would go to suspension, but I go to brakes first, and here's why. You control your bike with your brakes. The better your brakes are, the better you have control, the faster you can ride, and the faster you can slow down. You will have more control with your bike. It'll be not only be safer, but faster. And with better brakes, you get a lot better lever feel, which also reduces hand fatigue out on the trail. So with better power and better modulation, you actually get a better overall feel on the bike, and it makes a lot bigger difference than you think it would make. Cheaper brakes have really cheap levers, and they don't modulate the power as well. And a simple brake like the Shimano SLX does a fantastic job of creating a better overall experience on your bike out on the trail. And then as I mentioned before, I'm going straight to suspension after this, because the suspension is what creates that interaction between you and the trail underneath you. With better suspension components, you get stiffer forks, better supple rides, more controlled grip. Everything about your bike changes as you upgrade the suspension. But keep in mind, there is a law of diminishing returns here. You can get pretty wild when it comes to suspension components, but typically that mid-range of suspension component performs really well out on the trail and really saves you a lot of money as you get up into those higher end components that can cost as much as your bike. And then #5 for me are carbon handlebars. Aluminum handlebars tend to have a lot more vibrations on the trail, especially if you live in really rocky areas. When you go to a carbon bar, it gets rid of some of those vibrations and makes, again, your hand fatigue go down. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of these components that are really tied to hand fatigue. It's because when you lose the grip in your hands, you really lose control of your ride. So the more that you can make yourself comfortable and less fatigued, the better off you're going to be out on the trail when you're riding. And then lastly, our drivetrain components. I can't tell you how many people go straight to the sexy cranks or the sexy rear derailleur and spend a whole lot of money and don't get a lot of output when it comes to actually improving their ride. I find the drivetrain components have the least amount of effect on the ride as I'm out on the trail. As you can see behind me on this polygon, it actually has Dior components, which perform great. I can't see that big of an increase when I go to XTR components on this bike other than weight. So if you really are just a gearhead and you love upgrading those components, which I have in the past, that's fine. But if you're really looking to kind of stay on a budget and get the most performance you can out of upgrades, this is the absolute last thing I would do. And typically, if you're buying a fully built bike, I would go ahead and get the one that already had the group I wanted on it. This is not something I'm going to continually upgrade on bikes that I already have. So typically on existing bikes, the only time I really upgrade drivetrain components is if they wear out. They can be a wear item, and if you keep your bike for a really long time, there will be a point where they need to be replaced just due to wear. But if you're looking for just that blingy rear derailleur, you could spend your money on those other components that I mentioned and get a lot more performance out on the trail when you ride. So guys, I want to hear what you think. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you do something different? Hit up the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to Bike 198 for more videos like this in the future. And until then, on to the next one. Thanks guys, see ya.